The Brisbane legend, known as Rock and Roll George, has been farewelled on his final trip. The man who cruised the city in his old FX Holden for years was buried this afternoon, but not before a final salute.
Just one last look. The body of rock and roll George Kiprios was carried through Brisbane in a hearse behind his famous FX Holden. One last salute from admirers, a quiet journey, no rock and roll blaring like the 50s.
You always knew George was coming because from half a mile the music was on.
The man who would tour city blocks 20 times an evening, sometimes with young lasses in tow, was honoured at West End's Greek Orthodox Church. He'd lived there all his life, 82 years, and became a legend.
I have these vague recollections of people yelling out, "Rock and roll George," remember that? There goes rock and roll George.
There are some who'd say that at times George was a tad cantankerous, and many, many more who'd say that within he was the salt of the earth and just a great representation of an era. A time of a youth subculture known as Bodgies and Widgies, devoted followers of American rock and roll, of Jerry Lee Lewis and Fats Domino music, and Brisbane's Rock and Roll George.
He was a great friend, right? Never did harm to anybody. The car came before anybody else. The Holden was his life.
And there are many, including the Premier, who want to save it for the city.
We are actually looking into what can be done to preserve the car.
That's in the hands of relatives, but no matter what they decide, the memory of Rock and Roll George rocks on. Mark Sulo, 10.
It was paid to one of Brisbane's true characters today. George Kiprios, better known as Rock and Roll George, passed away on Sunday, aged 82. His 1952 FX Holden cruised city streets today just the way George used to.
Melbourne Street and West End and Queen Street were George's world.
George and his car were a common sight in the 50s, 60s, 70s and 80s until Queen Street was closed to traffic.
See the lights. You should be classified as a national trust. Rock and roll George. Keep